Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Towel Boy, where we try to give you the cleanest takes in sports. First off, I just want to say, hope everyone had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. As this year's coming to a close, I want to say thanks to everyone who may have watched or listened to the show. Started The Towel Boy this year just as a fun way to kind of talk about sports and kind of be my creative outlet for giving my thoughts and sharing with people who may or may not care. So I appreciate you if you've listened or tuned in at any point. And I'm excited for 2026 to see what all has in store for the Towel Boy coming up this next year. I'm very excited for today's video, the last video of 2025. I'm going to talk about my top 5 prospects at each position so far for the upcoming NBA draft. Felt like this was a good timing with the new year coming up. Um, Conference play for college basketball is kind of starting, so it's kind of like that, roughly that halfway point in the college season where we kind of have a good idea of where most prospects look and how everybody's kind of looking. So I was going to talk about everything can change, of course, too, right? Things are very fluid. Um, I'm going to talk about my top 5 prospects at each position. So, how I break it down in my big board, we have kind of like 4 positions where I kind of mark them down. I have guards where kind of I break them down as people where I think can lead an offense in the NBA system. Then we have wings where people more playing on the perimeter, but not quite lead ball handler type. Forwards where they can be kind of wings, So some combo guards I put into the wing section because I don't think they'll be more of the primary ball handler. Forwards uh, and wings vary a little bit more. I think forwards just play a little less on the perimeter, handle the ball just a little bit less, right? And then centers are still pretty traditional in how I rank the centers. So we got guards, wings, forwards, and centers. Don't pay too like if you think someone is more of a combo guard than a wing, but I have them as a wing. Don't think about it too much. That's just how it helps my brain when I break it down into my overall big board. So this will give you a little bit of an insight into my overall big board, which I won't share until I have it finalized. Because I just like to wait until I have all the information I can. I don't. I'm not going to pretend like I'm the world's most expert scout, so I need as much time as possible to finalize and get all these prospects, in order. But I'm going to start with the guards, my top 5 for each position, talk about their strengths, what I like about them, where I kind of project them to go in the NBA, and why I like them, what they might need to work on, all that good stuff. So, number 1, we have Darren Peterson, freshman out of Kansas. Everybody knows this is the one of the best freshman classes we've had in forever. Peterson is right at the top. Only played in 4 games. Injury concerns, maybe, maybe not. That nagging hamstring injury that's kept him out for most of the year, which has sucked. We haven't really gotten to see him at the collegiate level, really. But overall, he has all the makings of an elite prospect. In those 4 games he's played, averaged about 19 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, on really good efficiency, right? 53% from the field, 42 from three, uh, about 6'5", 6'6", 205, elite size. Uh, He's a great defender. Can be a point of attack defender or a team defender. He's going to come into the NBA right away, I think, and be a plus defender, which not you can't say about a lot of 18, 19-year-old freshmen, right? Uh, One thing that I love about him that makes him so elite is he can be a lead guard. You can see him run the offense, whether it was in high school, AAU, or here at Kansas, or he can play off the ball, be a 2 guard. A lot of places have him listed as a shooting guard, and I think that's probably where he slots, but I think he can be a lead guard for you as well. There's really nothing you can knock on. Good decision maker, right? Doesn't turn the ball over a ton. Uh, Great size, can score all three levels. But just the injury concerns is like the only thing really at this point you can say as a knock on Darren Peterson. But he's gonna be in the top 3 prospect no matter what, even if he doesn't play for the rest of the season. So Darren Peterson is my number 1 guard so far this season, and I don't see that changing at all. He's like the farthest he's gonna drop in the overall big board is 3, and I don't see him even falling past 2, honestly. So Darren Peterson, number 1. Number 2 guard in this class for me is Michael Brown Jr. Now he's one of those players who, when you look at the raw PRA statistics, wow, he's going to be is awesome. But then when you look at the percentages, maybe you hesitate a little bit. If you watch some of his decision making, kind of makes you scratch your head a little bit. But again, he's a freshman playing high level basketball as a lead guard with a high usage rate, right? So 30% usage rate. He's averaging 17 points a game, 3 rebounds, 5 assists. The 5 assists is really impressive. But the shooting splits are pretty terrible, right? 38% from the field, 27% from three. Although he's shooting about a high number of threes, but still 27%. You don't love to see it. 84% from the line though, and the shots that he's taking slash making. Um, I don't really worry about his 3 point shooting translating to the NBA. It will be there. I think he's going to take better shots. He's going to have a lower usage when he first comes into the NBA. And he has deep range. Like some of the shots he's taking are past the NBA line. Um, are they smart, advisable shots? At this point, probably not, but you can tell that he makes them and he takes them. He's not afraid to take them, which um, is a plus thing at certain times, right? You don't want him always taking them, but definitely can. Um, but similar to Peterson, he can play both guard positions. I think he's more of a lead guard than a two guard, but I think you can play around off ball. Like someone like the Nets, if he was going to go somewhere to Brooklyn, like right, he can be your lead guard, but also if you wanted to keep playing Jaeger Joman at the one, you play Michael Brown next to him, and I don't think you have a problem there, right? So I think that is a big plus for Brown. And that's part of the reason why I like him so much. He can play the one or the two, and a lot of the guys I have in my top five, you can say that about all of them. So that's a big thing to me, being able to play translatable, different positions and do it effectively, right? I've talked about Brown and his shooting splits and his high usage and decision making question marks, right? Doesn't always make the best decisions. He is an explosive athlete. Um, the amount of half court dunks that he has created as a guard is very impressive, and it shows that his rim pressure is something that I think you can really look forward to translating to the NBA. He attacks the rim about 7 free throw attempts per game. He's a really high free throw attempt rate, which is saying for like every shot he takes, how often does he get to the line, right? Very high free throw attempt rate, and that's one of the biggest things that I look for, especially in a guard. How often can you get to the line? Can you get to the paint and score the basket? Michael Brown very much so can. So I think all of his skills, I think, will translate to the NBA, and I think all of his question marks, I think, will kind of go away over time into the NBA. I think he's going to be an explosive guard that can really break defenses down in the NBA. Is he going to be an elite defender? No, but I think he has the tools to be at least an average defender who's not going to be a liability. So number two, Michael Brown Jr., freshman guard out of Louisville. He is my second highest rated guard so far at this point. And the third highest rated guard, another freshman out of Houston, Kingston Flemings. Just a very solid basketball player. Averages 15 points a game, about 4 rebounds, 5 assists on 59, 48, 78% splits. Now, he doesn't shoot the ball a ton, but those shooting splits are very impressive for a freshman with responsibility in one of the best teams in the country, right? About 6'4". He's a really good defender, point of attack or off ball. Averages about 2 steals per game. Uh, he just doesn't look like a freshman out there. He's really under control, plays a smart game. He looks like a Kelvin Sampson coached kid, right? Um, I kind of compare him to. I think he's a little bit ahead offensively of where Casey Wallace came into the league, but that is kind of my comp for him right now. Really good defender. I don't think he's going to be tasked with being a lead guard when he comes into the NBA. I think he might be more of the number two guard, just because where he's going to get drafted, they might have a guard already. But he's a smart offensive decision maker. So if you put the ball in his hands, I don't think it's going to be a problem for any team. He's going to make the right decision. He's not going to do too much. He's going to shoot the ball really well off the catch and shoot or the dribble. Um, he doesn't look like a freshman out there. I've said that before. Very smart player. The only thing I would like to say about him is kind of he's a little bit different than Michael Brown, as I mentioned earlier. Is I would like to see him attack the rim a little bit more. He doesn't attack the rim too much, doesn't get to the line too much. That's just not his game yet. As he fills out in his frame, gets a little bit more athletic vertically. I think that could be something he adds to it. But that's probably the biggest thing I want to see improve for him, and that's the biggest next step I think in his offensive game is getting to the line a little bit more. But other than that, overall, very solid basketball player. And I think that he is he's a top 10 player for me in this draft, and I think he's going to go top 10 in this draft. Number four guard, I have sophomore LeBaron Philon out of Alabama. I was pretty high on him last year, like right borderline lottery pick. He decides to come back, and it was a fantastic decision for him. Uh, Top 10 scorer in the nation with 22 points per game, 4 rebounds, about 6 assists, 55, 42, 72% shooting splits as the number one option, right? If you're a top 10 scorer in the country and you're shooting it at 55% as a guard, extremely impressive. Um, I've been surprised at how good he's been offensively. Like last year, that's kind of one of the things I didn't think would translate to the NBA if he would have gone to the draft was I didn't see him being. I saw him being a little bit behind offensively. Now greatly improved in most things offensively, right? top 10 scorer in the nation. Really good playmaker now. It's almost 6 assists per game. And it's not like just lucky assists, right? He's making good decisions all over the place. So, uh, just greatly improved in all things overall. Offensively, although I still see him being more of a point of attack defender when you first come into the league. Uh, 6'4". I think he had measured in about a 6'6" wingspan, so not a crazy long wingspan, but just as I know the advanced stats don't say he's a great defender, but when I watch him, I think that's going to be where he's going to be most suitable at first. Point of attack defender, um, scoring guard that kind of grows into that lead guard role. He's not an overly great vertical athlete, but he's slippery, slithery, quick. Um, so I think that's not a question mark that you really have to be too worried about with Phylon. Um, Overall, just grow into his body, grow into his game, and I think he's going to be a solid NBA player. I think he's definitely in that tier below the first three guards for me, but I definitely do. It's been really fun to see him improve over the season so far. Then at number five, this one was a tough one for me. I've got a couple guys that almost fit into that top five spot. And like I said earlier, these are very fluid. So this guy might fall, he might rise, who knows? And I might have other guys come into my creep into my top five as the season continues to go. But I have Darius Acuff out of Arkansas, another freshman, averaging about 19 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists on really good efficiency, about 49% from the field, 44 from three, 73 from the line. He's about 6'3", 190, and he's a guy where I just have continued to overlook him so far. So I'm excited to keep digging into his film, keep watching him play, because nothing on the eye test to me screams legit NBA stud. Which I know I've talked about it before. I still place some value on the eye test, right? The advanced numbers are fantastic, looking at all those things. But I still, when watching a player, if I can tell like, oh, this dude's going to be a baller, I do still have some value into that. Right or wrong, I don't know. That's just my process. But for some reason, Acuff has just never quite stood out to me. But then when you look at the stats, not just the PRA, but the advanced stats, the analytics, and then just overall, one day I just kind of sat down and just, that Houston game, especially, right? It was like, whoa, um, he's just a solid player, really good decision maker. Three is like roughly a 3 to 1 assist to turnover ratio, hyper efficient. I think he has good potential to be a driver in the NBA, right? He's kind of like a stockier build, a strong player, um, pretty quick. Uh, like nothing that I test screamed to me, but he just kept producing, kept producing. So I definitely looked in the film, and I think I definitely overlooked him at first. I was wrong, and I'm excited to keep watching him to see what his role is, because that's the one thing. Just because I have overlooked him, I'm not sure what his role is. Even though, like, I'm kind of contradicting myself, but even though he's such a good decision maker, great assist numbers, I'm not sure if he's a primary facilitator. Like at the NBA level, he very much could be, and I could look like an idiot, but I'm not sure. But I don't think he's like really an off guard yet. Um, so I'm just curious to see what I kind of think his role is going to be. But at this point in the season, I had no argument to not have him in my top five. So Darius Acuff, Arkansas, rounding out my top five for the guard position. So those are my top five guards. We got all for all freshmen except for one sophomore. We got Darren Peterson out of Kansas, Michael Brown out of Louisville, Kingston Flemings out of Houston, LeBaron Philon out of Alabama, and then Darius Acuff out of Arkansas. Moving on to the wings, like I said, some of these wings you guys might group into the guard because they are more like a shooting guard, but I'm just kind of classifying it to the wings where I don't, just because I don't see them being a primary ball handler very much, at least in their first couple of years. The only outlier guy here is my number one player out of BYU, AJ Debonsa. Some people have him as the number one prospect, but he's nowhere. He's number one, two, or three for pretty much every big board you are going to see for the rest of the season. Uh, Number two scorer in the nation with 23 points per game, 7 rebounds, about 4 assists, 59% from the field, but then only 33% and 77% from the line. Respectable, and definitely things you can work on with a guy as skilled as Debansa, right? Uh, he has probably the greatest outlier skill maybe I've ever seen when I've gotten super deep into scouting with his ability to get to the free throw line, right? Averages about 8 free throw attempts per game. He puts pressure on the rim, puts pressure on the defenses. And this is such a good skill because even if you're not shooting the ball well or finishing, the fact that he can get to the line, so he's going to score no matter what. He's going to get you at least 15 points a game just off the fact that he's shooting 8 free throws per game. Right, we saw this all obviously not the greatest competition in all of Division One, but he had a 20 free throw attempt game against Abilene Christian recently. Any player getting 20 free throws in the game is quite impressive, let alone a freshman at this level. So his outlier skill of being able to get to the line is the biggest translatable skill I can give him. And biggest compliment I can give is that that is an NBA skill for stars, right? Stars get to the line. That's how they score. You see Jalen Brunson, Jimmy Butler, Shea, Joel Embiid. Maybe it's annoying you call them foul grippers, whatever. That is a skill, and that is what elite players do to produce for their teams. Um, Another thing I can say about Devontae is he's just a gamer, right? Like maybe he's not the prettiest, but when it's time to take over, it's time to take over, and he knows his role, right? He's going to defer to his teammates like Richie Saunders, Rob Wright. If they're going, he's going to let them go. But when it's his time, it's his time. You saw this against Clemson. He had 22 points in the second half, pretty much willed BYU to that win. He has really good footwork. He has that reverse pivot. I love watching him do. Explosive athlete. Uh, like I said, second leading scorer in the nation due to his ability to get to the free throw line and just to attack the rim with his athleticism. He does need to improve as a shooter, right? Only 33% from three on limited attempts. He doesn't shoot it a ton, partly because he doesn't have to at this point. Um, Free throws, 77% is reasonable enough to think that he's not going to ever be an elite shooter, but a decent shooter, right? He's got a little bit of a flat shot, needs to get more of an arc on it, but that's okay. And he has a little bit of a loose handle, but he's about 6'9", 6'10", still a freshman. He can grow. He can improve. These are all things that he can improve on, right? So you can't really teach the innate athleticism and the skills to get the line, but you can definitely improve as a shooter and as a ball handler as you grow. So number one, AJ Debonsa out of BYU, number one wing on my big board. Number two is a guy I wasn't even on my radar at all to start the season, but he's shot up my. He's I don't remember exactly what number, but he's in top 25 of this overall big board for me. Might even be top 20 right now. But Cameron Carr out of Baylor. Transferred to Baylor midseason last year from Tennessee. And no one really expected this guy to explode like he has. He's been one of the best offensive players in the entire country, shouldering the load for a rebuilding Baylor program this year. He's 11th in the nation in scoring at 21.7 points per game, about almost 6 rebounds, only 1.5 assists per game. Uh, but 56, 42, 82% shooting splits. He's 6'5", long arms. He doesn't have the greatest defensive numbers, but he has the tools, I think, to be a really good defender in the NBA. Doesn't play the exact same way, but his measurements and just kind of where I see his role maybe going is kind of like a Nickeil Alexander Walker type, to where eventually he can become that lead ball handler like you see Nah doing. I don't think he's there yet. Card, you can see that with his assist numbers and just his overall. He when he's getting the ball, his job is to score. So his role is not to be a facilitator for Baylor. I don't know how much that plays into his skill set or just his role on the team. But right now he's not a lead guard, which is why I have him. He's definitely more of a two guard, but that's why I have him on this wing section because he's more of that, less of a facilitator, more of that combo guard type. Just an elite offensive player, shoots the ball at an extremely high rate, and offense is valuable in the NBA. So right now I have him at number two, and I think that he has the tools to be a good defender. So I value him as a prospect. Maybe higher than some, maybe not. Right? He's definitely a riser and improver over the season so far. So Cameron Carr out of Baylor, number two. The third highest rated wing I have is Braylon Mullins out of UConn, another freshman. He's only played in about 7 games so far for UConn. So going off of his high school tape and those 7 games, it's hard to kind of grows him off of just his collegiate career so far because, only 7 games coming back from injury, so he's still rusty, right? He's not the peak Braylon Mullins, but you still have seen some things in those 7 games. Right now, he's averaging about 9 points per game and 3 rebounds off of 46% from the field, 33 from three, 100% from the line, although it's very, very, very low numbers. But in high school, you see he projects to be a really good NBA shooter. I think you're going to see his shooting splits get up to about 38% at least from the 3 point line as he gets into the game. Right, his per 36 in these 7 games, he's averaging about 17 points per game and 5 rebounds. So limited minutes, he's producing at a very good rate, which is good to see so far for somebody, a young player coming back from injury. He's got good size, 6'6", really 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 good athlete and a really good defender. So he's going to be I think he's going to be a fantastic 3 and D type player. When he's on the court for uh UConn, he has a defensive rating of 95.3, which is a very, very good defensive rating. So the fact that he projects to be I think, well above average NBA shooter or an above average defender, there's quite a lot of value in that. So I think he's going to be. You hear the term 3 and D all the time. That's evolved, but I think that Braylon Mullins is going to be a 3 and D type player, and I think he's going to continue to go up my draft board as I can see him more in the collegiate level, right? So Braylon Mullins, number 3 wing for me. Number 4 is just a guy that I kind of just like, and I know that there's things that he needs to improve on, and that I have him higher than most probably. But my number 4 ready to wing so far, I have Isaiah Evans, sophomore, shooting guard, small forward, whatever you want to call it, out of Duke. This season he's averaging about 12 points per game, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Not the most efficient, but it's because of the types of shooting shots he takes. Right, he doesn't attack the rim a ton. 39% from the field, only 34% from the three this year. And for someone who's supposed to be a sharpshooter, it's not as high as you would like to see. It's not bad, but you would like to see it be higher. But I project it to be higher, um, based off of last season, what I saw, and this year, the shots he can make. When he gets on a heater, man, he's on a heater. But shoots 85% from the line, right? He is a good shooter, but you would like if his outlier skill is to be a shooter, you would want it to be a little bit more productive there. And I'm not going to deny that, but I do think it projects to be a good shooter in the NBA. It could be a product of Duke being a really good defensive team the last 2 years, but he's been an improved defender this year, and he's had good defensive ratings for the advanced numbers both as a freshman and a sophomore. So I think he's underrated as a defensive prospect. I don't know how much is because of the fact that he's on a good defensive team, but right now he's a not a liability on defense, despite his slender frame, whatever it is. Maybe he's not the most laterally quick or laterally athletic person, but I think he's a good defender, especially in a team sense. Someone that can shoot as good as I think he will has a lot of value in the NBA. Every NBA team wants a good shooter. Biggest knock on him is outside of being a shooter, and I think he's going to be an average team defender, right? Um, Outside of his being a shooter, I don't know how much there is to his game. He's not much of a creator, uh, not an elite defender, doesn't attack the rim at an elite rate. So maybe just being a shooter might not be enough to make him be a star, but I think he's going to be a productive player. So I have him as a number 4 wing, uh, Isaiah Evans out of Duke. The number 5 is a guy, I had other guys in this wings position. Uh, it's kind of tough to decide for me because like there's guys like Dame Sar who didn't make it, Thomas Hauk who might be a forward in my list, but I, right now I put Kareem Lopez off of potential. Right, he's playing in New Zealand, averaging right now about 10 points per game, 6 rebounds on 48% from the field, 44% from three, although albeit on lower attempts, but still very impressive. 80% from the line. He's got NBA size, right? 6'8", about 220 pounds. Uh, he's going to barely be 19 on draft night, which is why I think I have him at this 5 spot. Right now, I'm just banking on the potential of someone so young. Uh, that's being productive in a professional league over in New Zealand. Excuse me. Um, I'm not. I'm going to be 100% honest. I'm not sold on him as a prospect. And right now, if I was just going off of the tape, he would be a lot lower on this list. But you do have to take into consideration age and progress isn't linear and all that good stuff. He can score the ball at a pretty good rate. I think he's going to be a plus shooter, right? You see that with his shooting splits. And just watching the film, I like the potential he has as a shooter. He's a really good rebounder. His per 36 numbers, he would average about 9.5 rebounds per game. Um, I don't see him being a very good defender yet. Very young, so that could also change. He's got size to maybe become a good defender. Uh, but right now, it's just the offensive production potential is why I have him at 5. A wing of this size that can score the ball is always going to be valuable in today's NBA. So Kareem Lopez, he's younger than most prospects in this draft. So the fact that he can produce offensively at a professional level already, I think that he's going to be um, someone to keep watching for as more of a project player, but could be a project worth taking. So number 5, I have Kareem Lopez. Uh, and that rounds out my top 5 for the wings. We have AJ DeBonsa out of BYU, Cameron Carr out of Baylor, Braylon Mullins out of UConn, Isaiah Evans out of Duke, and Kareem Lopez. Now moving on to the forwards, I there's some there's some studs here. Some guys you could maybe say are wings, but I think everybody kind of there's more of those power forwards types, not quite true centers, but they're not really small forwards, right? Number 1, he's my number 1 prospect right now, Cameron Boozer. out of Duke, freshman, averaged 23 points per game, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 57% from the field, 33% from three, 77 from the line, about 6'9", 250. He leads the nation in scoring as a freshman, which is ridiculous, right? With someone as much pressure and hype as Boozer had coming in, he's exceeded it past all expectations. I overall, there's nothing that he does bad. Like if you same with Devonta, if you're looking, if you are if you ever go to Tankathon where it has like their plus the green on the left side is strengths and the red on the weaknesses, it's just all green. Like strength, 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 strength. Leads the nation in scoring. He's a very smart, great playmaker, very, very good rebounder, especially on the offensive glass. I think he does a good job cleaning up the offensive glass. Uh, a knock I've seen on him, which I kind of agree, but also like who cares? He doesn't do anything maybe at the most elite level. I would say that his offensive rebounding might be an outlier elite skill, but you know how I talked about Devonta having that outlier elite skill of getting to the line. Maybe Boozer doesn't have that, but he does everything at a really, really borderline elite level. It doesn't look as sexy as an explosive athlete like Devonta, or maybe Michael Brown has crazy half court stuff, or same with Peterson. But Boozer just gets it freaking done. He's not an elite vertical athlete, so maybe that's one thing you can want to see improve. But he's just he's the best player in college basketball, and he's the best prospect to me. Um, he can score, defend, play, make, shoot, smart, rebound, whatever you want. Boozer's gonna do it. I think he's a number one prospect. I don't think he falls farther than number two overall in the draft, depending on who's going to be drafting at number one overall. If they need a guard, they might go Peterson. But right now, those are the two vying for that number one spot for me. Number two, I have Caleb Wilson, another freshman. Right, you can see this freshman class is pretty elite. Caleb Wilson out of North Carolina, averaging about 19 and a half points per game, almost 11 rebounds, uh, 2 assists. He's been extremely impressive to me. I was lower on him out of high school. I thought he was going to be more of just a different player, but kind of like a more of a forward version of Drake Powell, where defensive potential doesn't produce a lot offensively. But Wilson has exceeded all expectations. He's a top five, top six prospect for me in the entire draft class. Um, One of the best rebounders in the entire nation, which as a freshman, he just has a knack for getting the ball, and I think it's really fun to watch him rebound the basketball. One thing I'll say about him, where I know it's not like the most necessary skill, but I think I have a lot of value in it, is he plays super hard. He gives 1000% effort every single play, and it ends up helping him, right? Maybe he misses three shots at the rim, but he's going to get that fourth rebound and put it up. He's going to dive on the floor, get his team the ball back on defense. While those aren't things that are necessarily of the most value and priority when evaluating a prospect, I still think it is very important, and it shows that he is going to do what it takes to be a winning player, because he's a prospect where he's not going to be the guy where you give him the ball and say, "Hey, you're our star guy, you're our franchise guy, go score for us every play." At least when you first draft him, he's going to be a guy who fits more into a system, and plays around the other guys on his team, and makes plays for himself just by playing hard. I think he's going to get a bunch of points off of doing that. Uh, I love the fit of him. If Indiana could somehow snag him and Tyrese comes back, he learned from Siakam. That's where right now I would love for him to go. But that's kind of a story for a different day. But he's one of the better athletes in this class, which helps him on the defensive end. He's a very good defender, very fluid mover. Uh, the biggest knock is he's not a shooter, right? Not at all. He's going to be a play finisher, but there are finishing concerns. He shoots at a pretty low percentage of layups in the half court. Anything that's not a dunk, it's not for sure going in at the rim, which for someone so athletic and so tall, you would like to see him have a better finishing skills. But personally, I'm just not that worried about it. I think with his athleticism, he'll be able to dunk it often, and I just think that he's going to improve as a finisher, and he's the type of guy that I'm willing to bet on to improve at whatever skills he may be lacking. So Caleb Wilson, number two for the forward position for me. The third forward I have is kind of a guy that's tough to um, evaluate, because I don't really know what his role is in the NBA, but he's just a good basketball player. And if you know me, I like good basketball players. Like I value guys that produce and can just play in a smart level, more than most maybe. So Koa Pete for me, freshman for Arizona, is the number three forward for me. He has fallen a little bit, right? He had that fantastic first game against Florida, then hasn't quite lived up to that game yet, but he had doesn't have to, right? Averaging 14 points per game, 5 rebounds, about 3 assists, 56% from the field, but only 64% from the free throw line. Has not made a three on the year. Outside shooting is very, very much a question mark. But he has a really good mid range shot, so it's kind of a weird. Why is his free throws not as good? Whatever. But outside shot is definitely a scare factor. But he's been very productive as a freshman. Very, very smart player. He knows how to play basketball. He knows his role. He knows when to shoot it, when to take a step back, play around guys like Jaden Bradley, Brayden Birdies, other guys, other NBA talent. Um, he's not an elite rebounder, but it sounds like I don't like him when I'm talking about all of his question marks. Um, but that kind of just goes back. The biggest thing I like about him is that he's just a very solid fundamental basketball player, and I bank on guys like that. I don't think I think he's going to be kind of a guy. I'm not comparing their play styles per se, but a Rui Hachimura, um, a Xavier Tillman, a Brandon Clark, where they don't have an outlier skill. I think Clark or Hachimura are probably better offensive prospects, but when they get into the NBA, they don't have to have the ball in their hands. They just have to make winning plays for their teams and contribute in little ways. I think that's what a Koa Pete type is player is going to be. Uh, that's my biggest question mark is what is his role in the NBA? Not entirely sure, but I'm gonna bank on his IQ and his abilities, his size, that he's gonna be able to be a plus player for any team that takes him. I would take him in the lottery, probably in that 10 to 14 range. Right now is where I would take the chance on a guy like Pete, depending on what my roster looks like, what team I'm the GM of. Number four forward, I have Nate Ahmet out of Tennessee. This is a guy who some high school sources had as like the number one prospect, which was crazy, but I am fading on Nate Ahmet. He's a guy who I think has bust written all over him, and I hope he proves me wrong. Right? I don't want to ever be right about a guy not succeeding. But freshman for Tennessee, he's averaging his PRA is really good, right? Averaging 50 points per game, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, but only shooting 38% from the field, 30% from the three, and then 80% from the free throw line. So the 80% from the free throw line is a good indicator his shot will probably get better. But he's about 6'10", but he added about, they said reportedly about 20 pounds this offseason, which you can tell, right? He was kind of compared, like everybody is, as a unicorn, Kevin Durant type player. Anybody that plays on the wing or forward, that's about 6'10", and skinny is what he was in high school, right? Since he put on the weight and the muscle, you can tell he's a lot stronger, but he's lost a lot of fluidity in his movement, in his handle, and how he attacks the rim. So we'll see if he grows into that body. That could be a big indicator of that 30% um, from the 3 point line, but the 80% from the free throw line. He's still getting used to how to move with that muscle when shooting live game shots with the 30%, but the free throws he still got down. He's got the form, it'll round out into shape. So that is something that you project to improve, right? He's supposed to be a unicorn, but did his putting on the muscle kind of ruin that for him? Maybe. We'll have to see. Uh, just overall, I'm not impressed when I watch him. Nothing screams top five pick, which is where he was slated to go preseason. Some boards have him being like that, but I won't deny his ceiling. Right, a 6'10" guy who has the skills. Maybe they haven't been producing, but he has the skills so far. I won't deny that ceiling. So he's a guy that could rise up my board or fall depending on what happens. He's a decent defender, decent rebounder, has size, has length, has the offensive potential, although it's just not there yet. So right now he's number four for my forwards. A good chance he can shoot into the top two, top three. Um, so Nate Ahmet out of Tennessee, number four for me. The number five, I have Yaxel Lindenborg out of Michigan, averaging 16 points per game, 7 rebounds, 4 assists on 59, 40, 86% shooting, near 50, 40, 90 club as a 6'10" power forward. Transfer from UAB, everybody knew he could rebound, but with the shooting, what would translate to uh, the Power Five, right, or Power Four, Big Ten level play, and nearly everything he has, right? He's good at everything. Shooting 40% from three, he's extremely strong, elite rebounder, has a good handle. Um, like if the only knock on him is kind of the opposite I was talking about Kareem Lopez is he's going to be almost 24 on draft night. Age is a hard thing for me to value because, like I said, I value winning basketball players so much, and Lindenborg is that. If not for his age, he's going to be a top five prospect overall for me in this draft class. But he's going to be 24 when the season starts. So it's hard for me to like. He can contribute to winning right away, but is he already at his basketball ceiling? I don't know. I struggle with players like him how to properly gauge them because as a basketball player, he is a top 10 player, 100%. As an NBA prospect, where you're trying to look for not only productivity right now, but also ceiling in the future, how high is his ceiling? I don't know. So I bet there's going to be some fluctuation with Lindeborg as the season goes on. But right now, he's in my number five forward. But I can see a team taking him top 10, especially a team like, I don't know, the Thunder, who has a billion draft picks, are trying to win now. Or if the Grizzlies don't make it out of the lottery, or the Blazers, per se, who are trying to make that step into winning culture, winning teams, taking Lindeborg right now to be a productive player right now. I can see him definitely going top 10 in the draft. Hard to gauge, but he's just a really good basketball player and is good at everything. So my top five forwards, I started out with Cam Boozer out of Duke, freshman. Then another freshman, Caleb Wilson out of North Carolina. Freshman out of Arizona, Koa Pete, number three. Freshman, number four out of Tennessee, Nate Ament. And then you got stud senior, Yaxel Lindeborg out of Michigan this year, rounding out the top five. Last position group that we're going to talk about today is the center class. Now, I don't think the center class is that strong. I think there's three guys I really like, four that I think have potential, and then after that, there's nobody that I think is great. That's just my take. Number one, I have Jaden Quaintance playing this year out of Kentucky. He's only played a few games this year, so I'm not even going to include his stats this year. I think it was 2 games so far he's played. Last year at Arizona State, before he blew his ACL, averaged about 10 points a game, 8 rebounds, not 8 rebounders, 8 rebounds a game uh, before he tore his ACL. Wasn't eligible for the draft last year. He was too young, right? So he's going to be one of the youngest. He's a sophomore, but he's going to be younger than most people in this draft class. Depends on how you value your prospects, because I can see a world where you're going to have Quaintance not this high, but he's a top five prospect for me because I think he's a generational defensive prospect. Um, his ability to guard on the perimeter at his size, about 6'10", 6'11", but also be an elite rim protector. Uh, I have not seen anything quite like it, especially for a guy so young, right? He was doing this. He was maybe the best defender in all of college basketball last year at 17. Um, Similar to like when we talk about outlier skills with like Demonsa, his defensive ability is an outlier skill for me. Really good rebounder as well, offensive glass and defensive glass. So combine that, just overall great defensive presence if you're going to draft him. One outlier skill on the plus side, but he has an outlier skill on the negative side, which is that his shot and his offensive ability overall is pretty terrifying, right? Uh, like he does not shoot good from the field. His free like he shot 47% from the free throw line as a freshman, 40% so far this year in his very limited attempts, but like not make he doesn't make threes, can't make free throws. Although I will say his form doesn't look terrible to me, but it doesn't go in. So offensively, he's probably never going to be that good of an offensive player with the ball in his own hands. He's going to be a lob threat for sure. Cleaning up the glass, like I said, really good rebounder, so he can score in that way. But generational defender, very raw offensive player. I'm putting so much. That's how much value I'm putting on his defensive abilities. That he's going to be my number one ranked center probably throughout this whole draft class. If I'm going to be honest, I don't see him losing that spot unless he terrifies me that much offensively. So number one, sophomore, Jaden Quaintance is playing for Kentucky this season. Number two is a guy I've talked about um, before on the channel, Patrick Gungba, the second out of Duke, averaging 11 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, 2.3 assists, 65% from the field, only 27% from three on limited attempts, 69% from the line. Um, but he's a sophomore, 6'11", 250 pounds. But he's still only going to be 20 years old on draft night, so he's going to be younger than some freshmen that get drafted, right? So you have that draft age is definitely a plus. Overall, a good player. I don't think that he's got a true weakness. I think he's going to be a really good offensive hub, really good passer, decision maker. He's got an improved shape, at least to me. Like, obviously, I'm not there all the time. I don't know for sure. But just watching him play, he looks like he's in better shape. He looks like more muscle. And he's become a better defender because of it, I think. He's a quicker lateral mover. Really been impressed and surprised by how good of a rim protector he is, averaging about 1.5 blocks per game. Um, and I've just been impressed. He can move laterally. He's actually a really good rim protector and rim deterrent for this Duke team. And he's kind of been a borderline anchor for a really good defensive Duke team. So that's been really impressive to watch. As somebody who I pegged as an offensive minded center to be such a good defender, um, I put a lot of value in that. So he's a top like 8 prospect for me in this draft class because of that. I think out of all the centers, he has the quickest route to being a serviceable NBA player. Different players, and I think Derek Queen's offensive skill set was higher, but Derek Queen, I think, is showing you that an offensive minded guy like this, um, but Gongwa was a better defender. So I think the fact that Derek Queen is having so much success just shows that I think Gongwa is a similar type player, in my opinion, to have success as a rookie. Does he has enough of a shot to have optimism that he's never going to be a liability. I don't think he's ever going to be an elite outside shooter, but as a center, you don't need that. So, he's a really good offensive player. I think a team like the Bulls would love to have him to be their Vucevic replacement if he falls that far in the draft. But I can see him going top 10. Um, Patrick Ngongba, I think is going to be really good, and he's the only center I think that could perhaps challenge Quayton's for me in this draft cycle. Number three, I have another freshman, uh, Hannes Steinbach out of Washington. Playing for a mediocre Washington team, he's by far their best player, averaging about 18 points per game and 12 rebounds. Very impressive. 59% from the field, 55% shooting from the three, though not much of a shooting threat. He hasn't shot a whole lot. But, I mean, 55% on his limited attempts, 74% from the line, he's the best rebounder in this class. So I talked about outlier skills. He has one. I think he's the best rebounder in this class, hands down. I think he has the best hands in this class. If you throw the ball on a pick and roll or throw it to him in the post, if it's in his vicinity, he's catching the ball, which is quite valuable. Limits turnovers, creates more opportunities for the offense to just get something towards the basket, whatever it is. So those are two outlier skills. I think. I think he's a good decision maker when it comes to, I mean, not elite like passer or anything, but good decision maker. Knows when to try to score, look for teammates, whatever. Like I said, not much of a shooting threat, but there might be something there. Decent defender. Overall, just a solid basketball player. I think he's going to be a starting center in the NBA sooner rather than later. Uh, with his rebounding ability and just overall decision making, I think he's got a route to be a starting center, if not year one, year two, 100%. So Hannes Steinbach is my number three center ranked right now. Number four, I have freshman out of Houston, Chris Sinak Jr. I'm fading on him a lot as well, kind of similar to Nate Ament. He's a guy I see the potential in, not so much the production yet. 9 points per game, almost 8 rebounds. Respectable stat line for a freshman for a really good Houston team. Shoots 49%, 38% from the three, but only 56% from the line. Uh, so I'm, like I said, more value on the potential right now. Overall, really good athlete, vertically, laterally, how he moves fluidly. He's a good rebounder, especially for a freshman. Teaching that Kelvin Sampson is helping him out there. Really good rebounder. I think his defense is way ahead of his offense, which I think actually could benefit him in the NBA. He's going to be just a lob threat, play finisher type when he first comes into the league. Now he can progress, of course. I'm not saying he can't, because he does have a decent enough handle, athleticism, the form I like on his shot, so he can become more of a creator if he needs to over time. But I think the fact that his defense is ahead of his offense will allow him to play minutes as a rookie. Uh, I kind of not the same, but I do think there are similarities to how when Derek Lively came into the NBA. He's going to be a lob threat defender, just play finisher that can maybe progress. Uh, Shot isn't there quite yet, but not terrible, right? He can hit the mid range. He likes to do that fadeaway turnaround shot a little bit too much, but I like the mechanics. He can hit the mid range. He can hit a three if he has to. So it's not out of the question that he can become a perimeter like stretch five. But he's a guy that I can see falling out of the lottery maybe, but also in the top eight. Just depends on which teams are picking where and what their needs are. I like Chris Sinak. I think he's going to stay around this four range for me and how I rank my centers. So those were the four centers. I'm pretty solidified. It's going to be my top four. Maybe they move a little bit, right? I said Ngonga, but maybe challenges Quaintance. Maybe Sinak jumps up both of them just off of potential being a little bit. But those four are solidified for sure. But so then my number five right now, I have Ade Mara out of Michigan, 7'3" center. Uh, and offensively, he's kind of similar to Chris Sinak. He's behind the other players, but he is quite a defensive prospect. Probably the best rim deterrent in all of college basketball, right? He averages 2.6 blocks per game, and I can't tell you how many times a team just doesn't drive because he's in the paint, right? So probably that borderline outlier skill there. Best rim deterrent in all of college basketball. Maybe Quaintons changes that when he's fully healthy, but Mara's presence, just being 7'3" and has good timing, um, I think he is the best rim deterrent in all of college basketball right now. He's a good mover for his size, so like obviously guards are going to take advantage of him because he's 7'3", but he's not like a complete uh traffic cone out there. So I really like that he can move laterally as well. Really uh has impressive passing chops. Like he'll make some dumb decisions trying to do too fancy of a pass, but he sees passes and not a lot of centers can make. Being 7'3", also he sees over defenses. He's a creative mind. You can see that little bit of that European flair when he's playing. Um, Now I have some concerns about his strength and his finishing in the paint when he's going to go against NBA sized guys, right? If you go against an Ivica Zubac or a Zach Edey, how are you going to compare, guys of similar stature? I don't think he has the strength to compete quite yet. Obviously, always can improve. Um, so strength concerns, finishing concerns. He does have a high turnover rate, but he has a high usage rate for a center. Um, so in the NBA, he's not going to have the ball in his hands to be a decision maker as much as he does for the Wolverines. So I expect his turnovers to go down. But the lack of ability, he doesn't shoot a lot of free throws, which is kind of concerning, right? You would think a guy of his size gets fouled a lot, and his free throw percentage is pretty concerning. Only 45% from the line. So his offensive game is definitely behind his defensive game. So I have concerns about how his offense will translate. Is he going to be good enough defensively to stick in the NBA? I do think so. So he's a end of the first round type prospect for me. Might go higher just a team needs a center, but Ade Mara is my final center that we're talking about today, rounding out my top five. So my top five centers, we have Jaden Quaintons out of Kentucky, Patrick Gungba out of Duke, Hans Steinbach out of Washington, and people might put him as a forward. I think he's more of a center in the NBA. But then I have four, Chris Snack, and then five, Ade Mara. There it is. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Um, you all know that the draft, especially the NBA draft, evaluating prospects is my favorite thing. So uh, this was really fun to kind of give you guys an idea of what my big board is looking like. Like I said before, these are all fluid. Next time, if I do anything similar to this, I'm sure the lists look a lot different, right? We'll have more time. Conference play is about to start, so you really get down when teams can really, really scout a player. Maybe you can see their weaknesses exposed a little bit better, right? But I'm excited to see how this changes. Please let me know if there's anybody that you guys think I glaringly missed, or if you guys like any of these prospects more so or less so than I do. Again, thank you guys for watching this or listening to this channel. I'm excited for what 2026 has to offer. But until next time, have a good one. Happy New Year.